do not need to steal. Do you not agree?
Mustafa, I disagree.
Huh?
I quite disagree, and I will tell you why.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Jallo, I'm interrupting.
Yeah, go ahead. No, it's okay. He will come back again.
Go ahead.
Messengers, secretaries. See, corruption is not only taking money directly from the coffer.
Yeah.
You will have messengers who will sell information. We're about to do this. I went to deliver a letter here. And because I have a force mover advantage, I pay him.
Yeah. To contractors, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah, true.
Secretaries typing a letter for their boss.
Yeah.
Sells the information because it's privilege. And a businessman use it as an opportunity to have a force mover on it. So even the cleaner. See, I think the definition of corruption in most of us, we look at it by someone giving and someone receiving, especially when it hampers or impede our fiscal receipts. But we still have public office corruption in different ways.
Definitely.
Sorry, Mr. Jallo.
Yeah, Mr. Jallo, go ahead.
Thank you very much. You know, what he says could also be right. To me, it goes beyond what we are narrowing it here to. Because some people, I mentioned in the first part about low wages, because of low wages, some people engage in the corruption. But greed, some people are too greedy. Greed is a problem in our own. I don't know, some of it is driving from our own society. I don't know. To me, our own people.
Bubakar, what's going on? Bubakar has dropped off. I think he's struggling with his internet. So we'll take the opportunity to bring Sina So. Is it Sina So? Oh, Sina So, are you sleeping? It's Ramadan day. Some people will be alive and they'll be sleeping. Anyway, that's fine. Boj, will bring you on board. Boj? Yeah.
I would say that 80% of Gambians don't disagree with corruption. They just hate it because they are not part of it. And yeah, this is a fact. And we just whenever you employ somebody, you see the difference. You say, oh, that was the guy who used to fight for people, who used to do this. And the common answer will tell you, hey, in our culture, when you are eating, you don't.
Why is that the case, you think?
Okay, that's where I'm going to. We learn corruption since we were kids. One part. And because of the deception of you go to school, you find a good job, then get techie.
Yourself, so we'll leave you to speak.
Yeah, no, because I keep coming in and out. So
I know. Go ahead.
No, I mean, yes, I've just come across you tonight again. I don't know what is happening, but you're coming through the feeds when I'm talking. But
so what we are talking about is corruption. So we're talking about our society.
No, I've been listening.
Okay.
In and out. I got calls and then I pop out and come back in.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And I take stock from what our brother Nyanjai and Mariam And I think those are the people that I've listened to elaborately. I think what they are all saying makes a lot of sense. For me, I will depart and look at the Western perspective. How was corruption? How did they tackle corruption? Or shall I say, how was it repackaged? In America, in the UK, in France, and other countries, and how did they manage, even though corruption is prevalent in different ways, but they still manage to progress and achieve stability, sustained development, and progress. Now, when the last guy was Mr. Jallo, I think when he says he blames it on poverty, and Nyanjai is from the social perspective. You know, so corruption is very complex in the sense that sometimes somebody can be corrupt. He doesn't have to be. He or she does not have to be. Because they have what they need, just like you were talking about the man who manages himself so well that you know he does not overspend.
Yes.
But then he is somebody who is well informed and emotionally is a very stable person. Because to be able to do that, you have to be first and foremost emotionally very stable to be able to resist. Like our sister Mariam said, you have a wedding or you have a naming ceremony or you have some event, and the pressure on you is such that you know some of these people will find different ways to sort of put up that show, even though afterwards it's a pain. And personally, because I've been in the diaspora for a long time, I've seen it even in Europe, where people will work so hard, put some money together, spend it in Gambia for a possible investment or even acquire a land or a property. And they will have something going on here and they will sell that to repatriate that money just for a day, so that people can say, well, did you see what that person did? So that is an unstable...
For an event. For an event,
yes, for a wedding or for a naming ceremony. I've seen people do that. So there is something wrong. I agree with that part of what Nyanjai is saying. The consciousness of some of our people, the inferior mindset and the mindset to say it is either what you wear or what you drive or what you sow. This is where you get value from. So this is a very, very complex thing. But for me, it's not all doom and gloom in the sense that you have young people like yourselves, highly intelligent, discussing these issues. It takes discussions in Europe. Because for me too, I followed corruption in the UK, how they manage in football, in the police, and in the different institutions. Because I worked in their government system for some years. And I used to see when, especially technology has been integrated in their civil service, you know, how they start to reform. And in the sense that I remember back in 2012, when they're saying that, look, you know, we have to automate a lot of the systems, and there are a lot of people who came forward to say, unfortunately, I'm used to doing this work in the old way. I cannot adapt. And the government came forward with a proposal to say, okay, we're going to pay anybody over 55. We're going to give you a gratuity to retire. And then we will pay you 75% of the wages that, you know, will be due to you before your retirement. And a lot of people took it because they say, we cannot adapt to technology because we can't learn it. So they had that honesty. But why were some of those people honest? Because I know some of those people, I was working with them. It's because they have the social safety net. Okay, they have a social system where you have a benefit, a state benefit. I mean, they subsidize your rent, they subsidize your food, and they have what they call unemployment benefit and stuff like that. So they have those social safety net where somebody could come out and say, you know what, I cannot adapt. So in Gambia right now, we are all pushing for the system to be digitalized for everything. How many civil servants do you think who might struggle to operate a computer or might struggle to do certain things will come forward and say, you know what, I just cannot learn this new system. Let me retire. So what the Jallo says, the poverty is there for a large group of
But
people.
I'm not sure whether I'm not sure whether you know, but Sundu,
Yes.
Sundu, I'm not sure whether you are aware, but Gambia government has an incentive for people to use IFMIS, the payment system that they had in place. I mean, it's being here.
No, I know. I think IFMIS is
and
now
there
used.
are allowances attached to IFMIS, but still people refuse to use it.
I understand. You know, this is what I'm saying. The point here is that when we compare society.
It's been there for a long time.
Yes, I know. Some of my friends were part of those who rolled it out. You know, the IFMIS when it started in Gambia. But where we are looking at it from is why is it lingering? But I will conclude here because there are a lot of people online. I know I like to compare. The point is, in UK, for instance, how did they stop corruption in football? Okay, that was not long ago. It was the late 90s and coming inside the early 2000s when they really stamped it out. It was the media. Okay, and in BBC they still have a program, the Panorama, where journalists will go into factories and they will go into different places and work with them, learn how these things are done, and learn what are the loopholes and how this, and then they do a program about this, and then it's aired nationally. So the media, it will take the media, responsible media, to teach people, not as vendetta, not as scapegoating or targeting, but with the spirit of trying to help the system, the people change, because it's the people that are the system. It's not the buildings. It's the people. We are the system. So, and it will take our hard, software, changing, adapting, because we are all capable of changing. We are all capable of adapting. From what Ms. Njai was saying, that we've not been able to build a nation with some purpose, where we could all say, okay, these are some sets of value that we all agree on. But I think we are on that path with dialogue and discussion and reaching out to each other and interacting and not seeing each other as enemies, but seeing ourselves as everybody wanting the best for the country. How shall we achieve that? That discussion, that dialogue, and that media, responsible journalism and responsible media work. This is what it took most of the Western societies to sort of realize that, you know what, we have to adapt, we have to change. And with our universities also providing graduates, that are coming with the necessary skills, helping to create opportunities and income for everybody. Then at some point, people will realize, I don't really want to live that life. And gradually, people will change. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ture. We'll bring...
Can I join?
Who is saying that? Is it Stephen?
Yeah, Steven Siaka.
Yes, Siaka, welcome. Daka, go ahead.
Yeah,
You've been following
from
the beginning?
No, but I think I adopt the conversation.
Okay, you understand the conversation. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
all right.
I think it's all about corruption.
Yeah, it's about corruption, but we are looking at the underpinning factors. So the society, is it our culture? Is it the society? I mean, we agree that there is corruption. There is public sector corruption. I mean, from the days of Jawara, all successful governments have been talking about corruption, and yet each of these successful Mr. Mboj said it, I mean, that, people talk about corruption in this country, but they don't hate it. They only talk about it when they are not beneficiaries of it. And this is not Mr. Mboch's statement alone. I had an interview 2 weeks ago with Karamba Ture, former Auditor General. And this was his position. He told me in the Gambia, the predominant position is that most people are only opposed to corruption when they are not direct beneficiaries. And so we are talking about, so why is this the case? What's the underlying reason for this? Is it our culture? Is it our social upbringing? Is it just greed? Is it our education? Is it, and a whole host of other factors?
Yeah, the areas you have been talking about could all be the factors. It could be greed, it could be culture, it could be religion, it could be politics. But I want to pick two things here. That is our culture and the religion.
Religion, that's interesting.
Yeah, and the religion side, I will talk about it because just yesterday after the program, this man once visited the president, and after there, he is been translation or transliteration of the Quran in Baqarah some chapter, and he tried to bring the example like God Himself sometimes neglect wrong people when they are doing wrong, and these are not kafir, these are not non-believers, they are believers, but they are doing wrong things, and God is accepting their corruption attitude. So He's like, as a leader, you should not just be, some people should just neglect them because of their position as imams or their marabouts or their pastors and so on. So those kind of people have
endorsing corruption because even God doesn't punish everybody.
Yeah, this is what he's saying, and this is not true in the Holy Book. God doesn't, just allow everybody to do whatever you want to do and work freely on on earth. And these are the kind of people, if we are listening to, these are the Arab book cannot be questioned for anything. They just can't call themselves God, and we have to accept it. So this kind of regional issues, and I have also observed in one of the, I don't know, whether it was New Year or whatever, but these are Christian people, in the television. And someone said that Jesus once told the people, the Israelites, that don't punish someone whilst you are also a sinner. It means if you also do something sinful, you should not punish another person for committing a crime or doing some sinful thing. So these religious issues that they are bringing to the society are not teaching people to be right. I'm a Muslim, I believe in religion, but these are not helping the society to tackle the corruption. You cannot tell people that God is accepting, corruption. So who are you to challenge it?
Or anything that happens, it is
God that's happened. It is the God's will. God, this happened to the Caliphate of Umar bin Khattab. One woman said, I have only one son, and he still, Umar don't cut his hand. This is the will of God. He never did it. This was a mistake. And Umar says, if it is a will of God for him to steal, it will be the will of God to cut his hand again. Because this, as you said, it is a will of God. So this also is a will of Allah. It's not from me. I'm just a ruler, but Allah is the one who, advises him to steal, then he's the same person that advised me to cut his hand. If we put society into this kind of context, I think we will not use a religion as a scapegoat, like to just beat the bush and no, this is an imam or this is whatever. And I remember one of your investigation, there was a boarding school that they have some fire outbreak because of electricity. This has been, been ruled by one of the prominent person in.
Nothing is still done. That is not the only one. There are many other incidents after that.
Yeah, and another, orphanage school. There's a kind of corruption, and people see these people as religious leaders, so they should not be taken to court. They should not be exposed. Some people will even call you, hey, Mustafa, be careful. Be careful about these people because of what you have told, says about them. And who are they?
They will become my Bangkok.
No. If you talk about them, they have some, and people also believe that these people, I will come to that in a society, what the society also do in terms of this kind of corruption. That is, as we talk about the marabouts, we believe that, these people have the same direct connection to God. Like, if he did something wrong, you should not question that, because they can just ask God, like Allah, hey, this man should be useless forever. And that's what will happen to you, because they brainwash people. They teach kids, and the young ones. I mean, if you go to, Bolivia, but if you travel around Basi and so on, you find, maybe in a Jahan compound of 50 people, nobody is there to say no, whatever the man say, or in a circular compound, you cannot say no. Because your no means you will be useless forever. He can just tell, oh, Allah, make him useless forever. You will be useless. So this kind of beliefs we have. And we try to teach kids that these are true things. They should not say no, whatever the elders say. Like Tiliji Alfaya, whatever the old man said, nobody should say no. He is in charge of the family the family land. He is not developing it. He cannot even develop it. One boy want to turn it into a garden. No, he will say no, because he is not the beneficiary of the garden. So the land might even be rented to someone who is not part of the inherit this land after them. So, and if you take these peoples to Alcala or a Sefu, society is telling you that you are very wrong. You cannot tell your stepfather to this. You cannot say this to a stepmom. You cannot. I don't mean people should be violent or very.
So you think that what essentially the point you are trying to make is that there are certain degrees of layers that we have put above accountability, so that if you are an elder, if you are a religious leader, if you are a respected member of the society, if you are a minister, if you are an honorable member of the parliament, like there are some people who are too important to be held accountable. That's the point.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to raise. There's a people in society that you can't question them. Yeah. Like they are above the law. And they also believe and accept this. Yes, you cannot just question them now. You can be forcing this to the kids, that they have to accept this. We are teaching our kids without realizing that we are teaching them, because this is not, teaching is not only stop at the four corner of classroom. But if somebody is growing up in society and seeing this as is happening, we are the fathers, like we are the only people who have to rule, not the sons. Even though the person doesn't have any basic education, he should be that Kalo. He didn't have any understanding about religion, he should be the imam, because they are the, believe that.
Well, that is you are talking about the issue of culture of inheritance.
Yeah, and
inheriting certain roles in the society.
Yeah. And these are kind of things that also contribute a lot in terms of corruption. And some people say that it's poverty. I mean, at some point, what I understand is nobody will love your money to be spent extravagantly. Like, just, hey, this is my money, spend what you can call public people to come and spend your money whatever way they want. Nobody is doing this. So it's not about poverty, it's about choice. Because if you would not allow your money to be used like anyhow people want, why are you using the public money anyhow you want or anyhow you feel? This is not about poverty, like putting 5 people into a gele and you are giving $50 to police officer and police are accepting this. I mean, the person who is giving him $50 is not the owner of the car, and police is aware of that. So I mean, they are all helping each other in terms of corruption because of their own personal benefit. It's not about salary. I mean, teachers are not being paid. I mean, paid very less amount compared to police. But where can people, if those people also try to feel like our salary is not enough, so let's try to create a lot of dramas and so on.
What teachers have created in the history of this country, they still do created a lot of dramas. I mean, they created
I understood like study classes and so on.
They created pamphlets, handouts, all sort of names, and they sell it to students, in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, these kind of things, we are neglecting as citizens and believe that they are normal things in society. I think these two sides, I will go back to my topic again, like religion and culture play a great role in terms of corruption in society. And
okay, so let me bring Yeah, let me bring in Basiri for now. He's also been very quiet for a long time. Basiri, for you with us? Your internet seems to be very weak.
Yes, absolutely. I'm with you guys, Mustafa. Thank you for
Are
having
you
me.
here?
I'm with you guys. I hope you are getting
You
me.
joined from Kiam. Your internet is very weak. It has.
I'm 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 at all anyway. Not from
Did you say
Kiang.
all Yundum?
Exactly behind FIFA Goal Project.
You're not
Well,
very
only
far.
them with Kiang Network.
Anyway, it is interesting. The topic is so interesting. For me, I will want to say corruption. I will have to view corruption in three key areas. That is number one, the society creates corruption. Number two, institutional failures. And then you have number three, individual compelling issues. Okay, so who happens to be working in government or in an institution, and you are being paid low wages, but then you are not living in a luxurious life, and then people seeing you every day going on media talking, or people seeing you engaging in activist works, but then you are not driving cars, or you are not living in a mansion. They tend to question you. Okay? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. They tend to question you like, my brother, why are you not living in a mansion? And then it is about your time for you to enjoy. Okay, you can be here today and then tomorrow you get dismissed. So such society mentality contributes, into many people being engaged in corruption issues. Okay. And then another thing is about the society is like power being monopolized, power being given to a few individuals to control the affairs of the majority. I will take an example of like, for example, the chiefs and the alcalos, for instance. Okay, the government came up with a policy or with a law that no CFO or an alcali should collect a dime from a landowner before he or she could sign the document. Okay, but is this policy or law in effect? It is not. Okay, so people are being controlled, people are being forced.
So you mean weak accountability?
Exactly, weak accountability, if that's the correct word for it.
Yeah.
All right. People are being forced, okay, to pull out certain amount in order to have their documentation done. Okay, you go into other public sectors where you will need an ID card, for instance, or passport, for instance, or a land document. It takes you months. Okay, so in an instance where you need such document urgently, you feel like, look,
access to service tougher also subject people to pay their way out of things.
Exactly.
So let me give you this example. Just hold on a second. I just want a particular experience I've had. So I used to, because I use public transport, so I go around, and a number of times when police officers arrest drivers, I always tell them, look, if you have a ticketing system in this country, and this ticketing system, you have a ticket for different categories of violations, traffic violations. When a driver commits an infringement, and of course you give it to that driver, and if the driver, of course, objects, if he accepts that he commits this infringement based on the evidence presented, he can continue to take people to Bruce B, and when he is done, for example, he goes to bank and pay to a special account, at which time his records will be reflected and his number plate, and then you reflect it in the system that, okay, this guy has been fined and he's paid, so therefore he cannot be arrested again for this infringement. If he challenges the evidence, then he can go to court for traffic violation. This way, you save the time for the passengers, but they put passengers in that problem, okay? So that when the police caught the driver on the road, the passengers also have to suffer with him. I don't know whether you understand.
Exactly. Just like today, a clear example happened to us. Okay, the driver was he parked at a roadside where he shouldn't have parked. Okay, the police officer came and then asked the driver to go to turn and then go to the police station. And then in doing that, all the passengers has to come down in order for the driver to curve and then go back to the police station. And we were all delayed.
Yes, so but you know, if there's a ticketing system where you have to pay your violations electronically, and if you dispute, you can challenge it at the court. You know, the police officer is not going to get bribed also.
Exactly.
A lot of the money they pick on the road, they take it.
Yeah, but that comes down like Mr. Suntu made mention of, like, people are not willing to accept digital system in Gambia. People are not ready for it. Okay, because number one, it is because of the low wages they have been paid. Okay, so the leakages where they get money from, they will never want such leakages to be sorted out or to be turned into a digital system, because that is where they tap in their financial whatsoever in order to use it for their personal gains. Okay, so the willingness is not there for Gambians to start accepting the digital system. That is also part of the challenges. All right. So another thing I will take corruption as is the capitalist contribution. Like, I mean, the business men and then the business tycoons. For instance, you have the GSM operators. For instance, you have the landlords. For instance. Okay. So in the Gambia, people are not being paid much. Their expenditure does not, their earnings does not commensurate with their expenditure, for instance. Okay? Okay, for instance, at every end of the month, I am being paid 10,000, for instance. For example, okay, my landlord is charging me for 5,000 per month, and I deserve a comfortable housing, not so. Okay, the landlord is charging me 5,000 each month. Okay, my family expenditures does not is excluded in that. Okay, so if I have to spend on bag of rice, child support, okay, emergency needs, at the end of the day, I will be left with nothing. So I might be compelled to engage into one or two things in order to survive. Okay, so the capitalists are also contributing. Exactly, and exactly the dependency, exactly. So the capitalists are
dependency.
Yes, in terms of dependency, like, for instance, if I happen to be the breadwinner of the family, okay, maybe I'm from an extended family, so I am the one maybe working in a very good institution, and I'm being paid well, you know. So I will be compelled to support my siblings. I'll be compelled to support my parents, okay, aside from my own family. Okay, so this pressure, a combination of this pressure will also contribute or trigger me to be engaged in one or two things that does not align with good ethics of work. It leads to corruption. Okay. Also. So the reason of me saying capitalists is like, but capitalists are working hand in glove with the government, for instance, because one.
Do you mean businessmen? I don't understand when you said capitalist. Do you mean businessmen?
If I say
mine is gone.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Hello.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I am saying, if I say capitalist, I am referring to business tycoons. Okay. Number one, it can be GSM operators. Number two, it can be industrial owners. Okay. Number two,
Yeah,
it
I
can
understand,
be.
but what have those to do with corruption?
Okay.
To making people corrupt.
Exactly. I made an example of the landlord, for instance. Okay, there was a land policy or land rent policy in the National Assembly that was brought in by Madisisi. Okay, and it was adopted, but it is not in implementation, and government is not doing anything to make sure that
your point, you are still talking about the cost of living.
Yes,
so
exactly.
You are saying because businessmen tend to like to profit more, and therefore they put pressure on the people to also be corrupt.
Exactly.
Okay, that point is clear.
Exactly. So, and then I talked about institutional failures, I think. Yeah, because
so we will now, we can leave it there. We'll now bring. By the way, you are next to GFF Hotel.
Thank you.
That's where they build a squad toilet for $1 million. We must go to court, like they say.
No problem.
Like they say in the Nigerian committees, we must go to court. Like,
okay, I will be a witness to that.
He needs to explain how this happened. A squad toilet for $1 million. Anyway, Mike, let's go. I mean, that has to be the most kianka kind of expenditure I've ever had. Squad toilet for $1 million. Now, Mamwe. Let's go, Mike.
Yeah, thank you. Mustafa, I'm going to slightly disagree with some of your contributors in terms of corruption being culture. Or some certain corruption is encouraged because of poverty, or some of the excuses given to corruption. I think what we have in the Gambia is a systemic corruption and a lack of political will. Corruption is everywhere, even in the West, but they don't reward corruption. Right. If you've been following UK news reporting these days, a former prince had been arrested. A former trade minister had been arrested, all because of their actions during while they're in office. Not necessarily they stole money. Yeah. So in the Gambia, what happened is we normalize it. And I agree with both. Whenever you heard Gambians talking about corruption, they are not at it themselves. But when they are on it, they don't talk about corruption. Even those that are outside of the areas of corruption, they will be complaining corruption. But as soon as they get in there, they become even more corrupt than the ones that are there. So the problem is in the Gambia, the way I see it, it's like we reward corruption, we reward failure. So the idea that because your salary isn't good enough and you have family pressure, that means you need to be corrupt. No, I don't buy that. And majority of corruption are done by people that don't even need it. Also, the old days of corruption is not in the Gambia anymore. What you have in the Gambia is kickbacks to massive contracts. That's what we have. And without a proper political will to fight that, you cannot fight that. Because usually there is no paper trail. It's not like the old days you go to the box and pretty much stuff your pockets. We don't live in that era anymore. How can a vendor supply a particular ministry or department, selling them a double-deck pig milk for $200 per tin? Would you buy that if it's your money?
You would not buy
That's a corruption right there. That's a waste right there. So, because we lack the political will, and the successive governments, as you mentioned earlier, fail to fight corruption the way they should, put systems in place that incentivize, that basically disincentivize corruption. Instead, what we do is we reward corruption. When people are corrupt, we even say they are doing well. You're not cool, baby. You understand? You're not cool, baby. Akatu tamalal. Padiyamol mina, we reward corruption. We normalize it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the problem. We need to move away from that. Because of that, it becomes a culture. But corruption is not a culture. Nobody is born to be corrupt. We normalize corruption, and the problem is it sits with the top. There is no political will to fight corruption, and the rest of the Gambia basically normalize corruption. The idea that people are paid lower wage, that encourages them to be corrupt, no. Every society, people's wages are determined by the economic productivity of that country or that society. If you want to live beyond your means and you don't have the means, and that resulted you to be corrupt, then that's on you. You should be investigated, go to jail.
All right, Mike.
And I don't know if you pay attention. I was listening to Suntu earlier on, and he mentioned a couple of times responsible journalism, which I underline. Right. But people like you that are investigative journalists, uncovering certain stories that most people or average people don't know about. What is he referring to responsible journalism? That's for me, that's an underlying word.
Fortunately, I'm not sure whether Shuntu is live.
Yeah.
Back to explain.
And I'm not in any way saying
myself, those kind of terms don't fly very. I'm not a big fan of them, but I overlook them sometimes because sometimes they mean different things to different people.
Yes. I understand that. And obviously, journalists have to be responsible because you don't want to go around accusing people. But we depend on people to find out what is going wrong, to report it. But we have seen other reports after other reports after other reports. We have had allegations after allegations after allegations on corruption. And people are working free. So in other words, our society rewards corruption. Point blank.
Why do you think the society rewards corruption?
Because there is no political will to fight corruption. We are paying.
Would that mean there has never been a political will from independence?
There has never been a political will to fight corruption the way it should be. You have to make corruption uninteresting. You have to. You don't fight corruption just at one level, but across the board. No one should be above the law. If the alcalde made a mistake, you should go and arrest the alcalde. If the opposition leader does, go and arrest him. If the president does, the same thing, he should be impeached. But the will is not there. So in that respect, we call it, we sometimes assume whether it's our culture. No, it's not our culture.
Then Mike, let's bring Tidos now also to just begin because everybody is just, and we are almost 1 hour plus, and we are still at beginning. Tidos, can you?
Hi everybody. I greet you all.
Madam PDYS.
You're welcome.
But Mustafa, you know what is interesting about this? If this was an exam, do you know that nobody would even get a single wrong? Because this is my observation, right? My opinion. I think every factor that has been mentioned here qualifies as a determinant for corruption. Because corruption is so wide and that sometimes you have to like nitpick And everything that has been mentioned, especially poverty, is one of the biggest ones. I don't know if you guys can hear me because where I am is really noisy. I'm in a train right now. If you can, I will let somebody take the floor and then I'll come back.
No, we are hearing, I think.
Okay. So what I'm saying is poverty. If you look at poverty, that is just one out of millions of factors. Because I don't even discount any. I cannot negate any. Because if you look at this situation philosophically, every root cause that is mentioned is caused by something. Everything is caused by something. Even coming back to us as individuals with our human nature, very imperfect. We are so imperfect, Mustafa, that whenever nobody is looking, everybody is kind of guilty of being, of not having integrity. You can say that yes, integrity is good, and it's the reason why corruption is widespread. But if nobody is watching, what we do as individuals is dangerous, and we can begin to point fingers. You get what I'm saying? So yes, definitely a lot of factors contribute to corruption. Most especially, even looking at our community, poverty to me is the main point. Not limited to it, but the main point. Because where we come from, we have some, like, our society is made up in a way that, like, dependency is normalized. Most of us are from extended families. You're not only responsible for the kids that you give birth to, but your uncles, your aunts, that extended aspect of it, their kids, and all that. Now, if you don't have a strong will, you will most likely fall into that category. Because if you see that, maybe, let's say, for example, few of your uncles have kids that are struggling to even pay for their tuitions in school, or they're sitting at home, they cannot go to school. This is just an example. You can easily get triggered if you know that you have access to some funds, and you know for sure that when I touch this money, when nobody is looking, there would not be any accountability. Now, mind you, accountability, lack of accountability is a factor on its own. Do you get what I'm saying? It's an entanglement. When poverty strikes, people go into survival mode. You get what I'm saying? At that point, like, part of you is what comes into place. That imperfect side of you. And this is not an excuse, but we're just, and we can spend a whole day here, but I think poverty in our community is one of the biggest factors, and we can go on and on and on with it if we elaborate.
I think
Okay, Mariam, okay.
poverty can play a part, but I don't think poverty should be an excuse. To me,
That's what I'm saying, Mike. I clearly said it's not an excuse.
no,
but
I understand
it
what
is
you
definitely a
meant.
factor, and we can't even take it out. We cannot negate it. So,
Yeah, but
a lot of people have mentioned. Give me one second. I'm sorry, Mike.
But it seems,
A lot of people. Nam.
because you seem to be agreeing that also, while all those factors are there, the lack of accountability is the biggest motivating factor.
Yes.
Yes, it's there. It is there. I agree. That's why I said I cannot negate any of the factors mentioned here. And you cannot even put it under umbrellas. It's multiple of factors. That's why I said if it was an exam, everybody would at least score a point. Because I, for a fact, if I sit down with anybody one on one and we are treating corruption, I can trace out a root cause for
Mike,
Yeah.
he's not saying like, we are not saying like poverty is an excuse, but it is a contributing factor. It is a compelling issue. Okay.
No,
All right. Before we
I
go
agree
back to
on
that,
that point. I
sorry,
agree
before we
on that
go back,
point.
to that, Mike, because that is
Mm.
it's already been discussed. How about I bring in another person just to also elaborate? And by the way, Mboji did not finish what he started.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Mboji, can you
Can I come
finish
in?
what you have started so that we can bring back?
Yeah. Okay. What I was trying to say that, yeah, we have two types of corruption. One is created by culture, the way we think, and the other one is created by expectation. And as for expectation, because we have all these educated people, we sold the idea that you go to school, you pass your exams, you have a good job, then you have the key to the world, which means taking it. But here is the problem. You do all that, then you come back to Gambia, and you found out that the lock have been changed. What do you do with your key? That's the first problem. Either you join them, or you have to go back and find another key. Those are the only two options. And most people will take the easy way out. I can take myself, for example. I came back, I got a job. After 2 days, I resigned. And people thought I was crazy, but I wasn't crazy because I cannot change them, and I cannot be part of them, and I cannot change myself.
Yeah.
So it's better to leave.
Yeah.
The second thing is how culture is teaching us we have to be corrupt, and we accept it. As kids, people would tell you, and you know where the money comes from. You go to the mosque, the imam will tell you, Mustafa. And you know exactly where Mustafa got the money from. So without knowing, you're telling people that corruption is okay. You didn't do it by purpose, but you did it anyway, and you didn't even know that you did it. So when it comes to policies, because of our elites are very, very corrupt, so definitely when they are making policies, they will put corruption in those policies. There is no way they will, for example, make policies that will change their lifestyle. No, they're not going to do that. I give you two good examples how Gambians are. One, it was in Parliament when we are doing this anti-corruption law. The first phase was very good, but later they started debating, and one of the debates was that if somebody gives you a gift as a parliamentarian, it's not corruption. It is corruption. He didn't give you that gift because of you. He gave it to you because of you. He can expect something from you. And they took it out from the law. So the second part is 2016.
No, go ahead. I was going to remind you that what you already on it, so go ahead.
2016, when Doyle said that we are not going to take any ministerial position, we said it even before we went out during the campaign. We said it. Everybody else said it, and then later when we won, Doyle said that we're going to stick to our words, and half of Gambia said, "What is wrong with Doyle?" You see the problem, and a human being is as good as his word. That's where corruption started. So that's why I would say that in Gambia, most people don't hate corruption. They hate the idea that they cannot benefit from it.
You've talked about donations, Mboj, but I mean, very early on in 2016, also the vehicle that was given to lawmakers.
Yeah. Not only
You
the
remember
vehicles. I remember that. Not only the vehicles, but a lot of things happened. And it was happening openly. That time, when you go to Kairaba, people were coming with envelopes and giving it to the president openly. It was not even a secret. And everybody knew this.
But I mean, the political class, in terms of the political class, way back in 2017, they all agreed, except only few voices. Those voices were eventually drowned.
This is what I'm saying, that people don't hate corruption. They only hate it when they are not part of it. You see, most of those people who took it, they will try to explain it. They will try to give you reasons, so many reasons. It's just like I'm the chief of police, or Mustafa is the chief of police. I'm the thief. He's trying to make sure that I behave. His job is to make sure that I behave, that I don't steal people's property and all those things. What do? I give Mustafa a brand new vehicle and say, take this as a token of friendship. How serious are you? It is corruption. People don't give you things when you are in government because of they like you or they know you. No, they give it to you because of the position and what you can offer. Take, for example, the president. Before he was a president, how many people even there gave him a bicycle? Nobody. It has never happened. So this is embedded in culture. And culture have accepted. Religion justify it. Not religion by itself, but the people representing religion, a lot of them justify it without even knowing that they are justifying it. And one of the things they say that, same time la yalla moko dogal. No. God didn't do that. It's a human thing. So yeah, for me, I have been talking about this thing for a long time. Okay. You talking about you take a taxi for a long time. Okay. Yeah, you know the kind of business I do. Most of my colleagues are multimillionaires. I don't even have a car. When I say this here, people get surprised. Because my philosophy is I cannot kill my own people. I have to do it right. And when you are doing things right, being honest in business or trying to do things right is very, very expensive. All of mune pour nga nek gor, fo nga am ci loy gor. And we must recognize also talking the truth. Come, yeah, let me say it in Wolof. Wax dëgga ak dëggu dafa ute. So this is the problem of Gambia. We are not fighting corruption. People who are fighting corruption, they are the ones that develop laws, corruption embedded in. And we also accept it as people, and we contribute to it. And the third one is the government. You know, if you have a system, you paying people $10, and he's handling $5,000 every day. And his $10, he cannot even pay rent. What do you expect from that person? All of money, nit ko amul dépasse, doo ko dénk xaalis. Su ko lekkee yaa ko tooñ. So if we really want to fight corruption, there are two things we need to do. One, we have to pay people decent salary that they can live on it. And that, in that case, if you are corrupt, yes, they can punish you severely because you don't have any reason to be. Number two, let's start electing people with character. Not because he's handsome or he's rich or no, but people with character who can serve us. I always say that you don't get what you deserve, you get what you work for. And as a nation, we are corrupt, period.
Yeah. So, okay, Mbod, can I let me bring in Bucks. Bucks has been on the line for a long time. Bucks, are you sleeping?
Yes, Mustafa. No, I'm here. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mustafa. Alhamdulillah, not too bad, thank you. Unfortunately, I missed the start of the conversation.
But you get the idea of what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, yeah, the root cause of corruption in the Gambia, I don't think there's much time or need for me to come onto that. For me, with all honesty, I think fighting corruption, not only political issue for Gambia or political challenge for the Gambia, but collectively as a society. And you trickle down, that comes down to individuals. Lack of honesty to one's self is the biggest challenge in Gambian society and in our approach towards corruption. Let's start with an individual. Sometimes it is a bit controversial, but Gambians should stop hiding. When I say hiding, is we accept and the society reward doing things behind the scenes. That will also come down to the lack of accountability. All right, let me give you an example. For instance,
that's what you
lack of transparency. Absolutely, yeah, lack of transparency. Because if things are not transparent, we don't want to account for things, so we hide.
You know, now they sign contracts, and in the contracts they put a clause that this is confidential.
Exactly.
So that they can circumvent the access to information law.
You get me. In fact, even what it's a challenge. Even what we are doing, for instance, here, when I look at the panel, for instance, this is nothing directed to any individual here. You clearly says, Mustafa, we know you. You are not hiding behind any other name. You come plain and clear, your full name. And here, all the contributors, for instance, are contributing vital facts or something that is useful for somebody. If you know you honestly, you are contributing and you are saying something that is truthful and it could benefit your fellow citizen. Number one, be open and clear about it. Who you are. Show who you are. Exactly. You know, if you are honest, you start with yourself right from the beginning. And the same thing with our society, with our political leaders. You know, let them tell us who they are in the first place. Or we are able to point them and know that this person who is saying this is this. So Gambia's problem as a whole is people don't want to be clear. They don't want to be opening up. They don't want to be transparent with their affairs. And this is the biggest challenge to fight corruption, as far as I'm concerned, because we are not being honest to ourselves.
Former Auditor General told me that he said, if we want to fight corruption, we have to make sure there is transparency.
Transparency. And that
So, for example, and that's one of the issues is that, I mean, you know, Mboju briefly talked about it. I mean, in 2016, if we had insisted in 2017, when Barrow brought the anonymous vehicles, the vehicles from the anonymous donor, if everybody insisted, just as PDYs did at the time, that look, we will take it, but you have to tell us who gave you this, because nobody gave you a bicycle when you were. I mean, you struggle to even be a National Assemblyman. All of a sudden, you are a president. Somebody come to give you 50 vehicles, so 48 by the time the National Assembly was 42. So if you have 48 vehicles, so 48, a minimum of a pickup cost a minimum 2 million. So that 48 plus 48, that's how many? That's like a 96, no? 96 million, no?
Yeah.
I feel maths, but I think it's
It depends.
For the invite to.
It depends. It can even be more expensive than 2 million.
Exactly. Yeah. With all other costs,
yeah, it can be
will be
more.
more than
I just take the lower figure.
Yeah.
The lowest. You cannot get a pickup here for anything. So somebody came to give the president close to 100 million. Nobody lifted a finger to know who that person is. But anyway, let's continue. I wasn't supposed to be commenting anyway.
Yeah. So you see, that lack of transparency, the society accepted. Our culture is accepting it more and more. It's getting worse. Our religious, beliefs are accepting it more and more. We see it all the time. Somebody who he is working for the government or is doing his own thing, within the community or within the society, our people tend to confuse corruption and ambition. The individual who are even more corrupt, we can see it clearly. It's not rocket science. You can see somebody started something or started working in the government or within a sector or is given a position. All of a sudden, they are displaying wealth all across within the community, all across everywhere. But then people think they are more ambitious because they are doing more. They are giving more back to the community. We see it, the donations that fly sometimes to our mosque, the imams. So people hide behind that because they see corrupt people as ambitious people. And as long as we accept that, and it's become a norm in our society, we can't fight corruption anymore then. So that's why I said, it has to start with an individual. And starting with an individual, some of those small, basic things that you know very well that what I'm engaging here is not the right thing. Don't do it. That's how you fight. You want a government document or something to do with a national document. They make it very hard. You go up and down until you are frustrated, until you go and hide behind somebody. Then you give something crucial to say, okay, prudna do kwe taria o mambe sulari men ntenga na hajo jibe. Saje ya speed up domandi. Ye bulobule le jibo kono ye keme di wala ye keme lul dia ye 1,000 dia. You think because na hajo nyabe lori wala ka wala anti nanga inche kat watu tembul. But you are supporting corruption at that basic level. And this is something that grows. The higher you go, the more the interest of whatever activity you are following or after, then the more you tend to support corruption again. So for me, I think the bottom line is it starts with us as an individual. You cannot say this and this need to be changed from this department or from this ministry or whatever. It has to start from yourself. And our religion is teaching us this, but we tend to turn a blind eye.
But isn't religion quite a convenient tool for the people? I mean
absolutely.
You take what suits you at a particular point in time.
Exactly. That's the approach. We tend to hide. And somebody mentioned it here. If it favor you or you are in it because of your interest, then it's not a corruption. It's facilitating. Whatever means that you use, you think that's just facilitating, but you don't see it as a corruption, and you don't really understand.
But let me bring in another person because we are edging towards 12. I'm shocking myself this Ramadan. I used to go to bed at 10 o'clock, but not anymore.
That's in order. Yes.
I don't even know how I am making. Os, let me bring in Os because so that he also brings an it. Os, have you been following the conversation? From Os, then we can go to Savage.
I have. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
It's interesting. I've been listening since yesterday. I don't think there is enough time to dwell on it because this is my area of specialization. So I wouldn't want to hijack the entire platform. But maybe probably just to bring some interesting points to realign the discussions into understanding what corruption is. So let's look at it in two aspects. Let's look at it at the Western aspect, and we also look at it at the global side aspect. So, in terms of corruption at the Western aspect, I would start with that. So, the famous formula was developed by a writer called Robert Kilgard in 1988 in his book, Controlling Corruption. And he came up with a formula. The formula said corruption equals to monopoly plus discretion minus accountability. And a lot of anti-corruption researchers have been formulating policies and anti-corruption agendas, primarily anchoring it on that particular framework. So UNDP in the 2000s, with their extensive research in Africa, they've decided to add onto the formula. They now said corruption is monopoly plus discretion minus accountability plus integrity plus transparency. Now, why does it work in the West and why doesn't it work in Africa? This was my research focus when I was doing my master's. And, through reading it, I find some very interesting things. And one of the authors or the writers that actually altered my perception towards African corruption was a writer called Sande. He wrote a book, especially in the Sahelian region, because his research focus was in the Sahelian region and some of our social norms. And the book was called The Moral Economic of Corruption. And he came up with some very interesting assertions. Key among them was Africa, in order to fight corruption, first we have to legislate laws that are in uniform with our norms and our culture. Because the laws that we are implementing to govern us, to make sure that corruption is eradicated in Africa, these are imported laws. And when I did my research, I carried on with his work and I was looking at norm translations and how do we keep importing norms, frameworks. When you look at the Gambia anti-corruption law, it was imported from UNGA chapter 15. When you look at our civil service code, it's coming from the Commonwealth Good Governance Framework. And a lot of things, we look at our procurement laws, these are imported directly from the World Bank. So you go through the importation process. And now it goes through the adaptation. Resistance through the process, because this resistance came about as a result of our historical beings, our cultural beings, our perception towards governance and politics and who we are. So eventually, the law settles and operate in a realm called the hybrid system or the hybridity. Now, this hybridity is very difficult to theorize because one, there is very limited literature on it. It is something that everyone in the global south knows this is how we do it. But it is neither a law, nor is it theorized, but it is the lived understanding of the people that it affects the most. So this is what is happening in the global south. Now, the law would tell you, do not do this is corrupt, this is that and that and that, and it is in the law. You read the legislation in Senegal, in Gambia, Mali, even Nigeria, I read their legislation around corruption. The laws are specific in the Western context. But as a West African, and having a lived reality and lived experience of West Africa, I would clearly see that this is not how we operate. This is not how governance works.
So what do you think you should do? You think that some of the things like, like they would say in Mandinka Kurushan, those things should be legitimized, we tend to give a lot of emphasis on giving money, we tend to compensate. So for example, if you do me a favor, if you do me service, even in the public sector, I will react by giving you money. And when a police officer does something in the traffic, I will react by giving him money. When a child is happy and I will react. There are some cultures where they don't give children money until they get to a certain age.
Right.
Okay.
But again,
Is that the kind of nuance you are talking about?
No, what I am saying is culture cannot be imported. We need to understand what our cultures are, what are the givens and what are the takings. And then we start legislating laws and bringing in frameworks and governance policies that reflects that. See, when it comes to corruption, the law of inertia would apply. If what you are legislating is in line with the cultural realities of the people, then it becomes more acceptable. If what you are legislating is completely against the cultural realities of the people will find a hybridity around it. They will circumvent it.
But we will agree also that there are cultures that are detrimental to our own being.
Yes,
because culture is a lifestyle created by somebody at a given point in time in history, and so it permeates the society and becomes the lived reality of everybody else. But then that culture, at some point, you can come to realize that this culture actually is detrimental. So, for example, some people think FGM is a bad cultural practice, and so therefore should be abrogated because we cannot also practice what is killing us. So I don't know.
Right. So look at it this way. What I am stating here, I am not taking a position. I am just bringing in the different academic arguments that are in there and giving some of the case studies. Now let's start with China. They had a similar culture of gift giving with us. Now, when if you want to find favor in business in China and all those things, they had this habit of giving out expensive whiskey. And it becomes a way of sustaining what we call in the corruption world the old boys network. Now, when the Chinese Communist Party wanted to fight that, they end up burning or zoning upon that particular practice. Now, we have this company in the UK, and the highest exported whiskey was in China every year, especially towards the Chinese New Year. So when this ban came into effect, because the Chinese government wanted to control the perception of corruption through the old boys network, then this company was really hit financially. They decided to go and investigate why their market share has dropped drastically in China. Now that is a cultural shift, because I've read, anti-corruption professors like Dan Hoff, who has written Analyzing Corruption, in which he has dedicated an entire chapter as to how the Chinese Communist Party decided to overturn some of these cultural nuances to make sure that they bring them in line with Western values. You should not give people gift, especially if the gift is hiding behind some other prefix and stuff like that. Now, in Gambia and in the sub-Saharan Africa, the idea of gift giving doesn't only stop into gift giving. So there are different elements attached to it. Okay? Now, there is the law of reciprocity. And this law is what combines and it's what's govern our society. The law of reciprocity. One of the things, Mustafa, it's when you look at corruption in the Western context, before I even continue on that line, it is only legislated for the public official. Because to them, socially and their cultural way of life, it's not corrupt. So the person that most research are emphasizing on is the person that is elected into the position of power. Now, in our society, we live by norms, and key among those norms is the norm of reciprocity. I've listened to you yesterday whilst I was in bed, and you guys were talking about nepotism and all those things. It's everywhere. We call them here the Old Boys Network. But let's look at the norm of reciprocity. And then you will understand why gift giving becomes an integral part of our society. Okay. Now, it filters down to the language we use. See, language has the ability to make us accept or reject a particular concept. Now, look at attire. I wrote a paper on attire. If you go to Gambia or you visit anyone, your mbadings, your acquaintance, you take out money out of goodwill and say Ali attire sang. Now it becomes a word that has a favorable connotation towards our own thinking. Al-Ataya sang, there is nothing negative towards it. Okay, now you are driving your car and then the police officer stops you. Clearly, you might be in the wrong or you might be in the right. They use a language or they use a word that already has a positive connotation in your thinking. They will come to your window and says, "Mang ataya meng follow." So naturally, you have a more positive reception towards that word and that dealing than bribe more. Because the moment someone comes to your window and says, "Bribe me," it already puts you in an abrasive position because the word bribe has a negative connotation in your thinking. Now, you now start seeing how these cultural nuances started playing in the way we received and the way we reciprocate some of these things. So you go to any public officials, you want your documents to be fast-tracked and all those things, you start giving attire from the gate man. And then everyone is smiling, everyone is laughing, Ali attire sang, Ali attire sang, Ali attire sang, until you end up getting...
So that's culture. Yeah.
Now, so what Sandy was also warning about was we should be very careful as Black Africans to demean our culture because the Western context have developed a model that suits them and address their public officials' behavior when, in terms of corruptions and doing things.
But practically, before you go to that, practically, how do you deal with a situation like that? Because this attire you are talking about, has created a situation that is so dangerous that when people become entitled because they are used to attire in exchange for service that they are paid to do. If you come as another person without attire, they don't prioritize your work.
Now, to fight corruption, you don't actually, if you ask me, like as a researcher and says, "Bob, how do we address this problem of corruption in the Gambia?" I wouldn't start by going directly attacking the cultural nuances. Where people needs to start is, how do you make sure that the bridge between governance and the people that are being governed is gapped, like that bridge, that gap is bridged. Now, I will use here an analogy. If you go to a village, there is a bantaba, and then everyone's need a cup of sugar. You put a bag of sugar at the bantaba, and then you tell them that this sugar belongs to all of us. Now, there is a set time that we need to benefit from this sugar, or there is a set time that all of us can share this sugar equally, or you have to meet certain criteria to be able to get that sugar. Now, everyone in that community understand why the sugar is in the bantaba, and everyone becomes watchful of that sugar. Now, no matter how dubious and how intelligent you are, if you want to collect that bag of sugar and take it to your house and start dashing out some few people a cup of sugar, everyone would say no. Now, the idea of the public purse and the idea of public resources in Africa, there is a disconnect between the average African and the people that are governing them, because they don't see those public resources as something that belongs to them. They see something, it is alienated in their minds. It is alienated in such a way that if the public officer is stealing, they don't see it as directly related to them. That he
but
is stealing.
Isn't that in itself also caused by corruption? So, for example, apathy. Corruption creates apathy. Okay, it's theirs. Let them take it. So, so over time, the people do not see themselves as beneficiary of their own resources, and so therefore they develop apathy and distance themselves, and so they don't take decisions, they don't vote, they don't do things, and so corruption also can, in a way, produce a system that also comes to entrench corruption itself.
So apathy only works if there are no available information. Now, someone would only behave in an apathetical way or shown against something that belongs to them if they do not have all the relevant information, because again, as humans, we act based on the information that is available to us at any given material time. So if that apathy is there, then it means there is no transparency, because the information that should connect the person and the resources as them as one, that information it's lacking. That's why people will create that apathy. Now look at it with the Musul Kafol in Gambia. If they put their money scatter Ususula, do you think they will sleep and allow the person with the coffers to go and buy a new set of furniture and all those things, maybe bribe?
No. I have never had Osusu corruption in Osusu.
Exactly, because there is collective.
Maybe we should go and learn from Gambian women how they do it.
Exactly. So this is it, because one, the information is available. They know why the money is in there, and they know why they are putting their money. It's just like the taxpayer. If they understand this money that I am paying supposed to benefit me in such a way, and it is made clear to them and they understand it, so they becomes very much, jealous of that resources and guide it properly. Now, look at the way we celebrate the people because of the culture of reciprocity in our city. Now, if I am employed as a minister in Gambia, now everyone thinks I have to reciprocate some of the good things that was done for me whilst I was growing up. Either I will have to reciprocate, I will have to reciprocate because we share the same vicinity, or we come from the same street, or we come from the same tribe, or our parents are together. And then it doesn't only stops at that expectation, but the public will also punish you if you do not fall in line. So there is an untold pressure put onto the public official in Africa. And most times, if this particular person, or if there is no system available to separate public resources from the public official, then they are most likely going to fall in that trap, because they want to belong in the society that they want to belong in. They don't want the society to shun upon them. Now,
okay, you can wrap up in 1 minute so that I bring Savage. It's getting late also. And we have three people after Savage who haven't said anything. Yes. You have to wrap up in 1 minute. Because we don't also want to create fatigue. Exactly. So yes. Wrap up in 1 minute, and then we can bring in. There is Savage, there is Drive Impact, there is also Hearing.
Exactly. So I think to address corruption, we can speculate here on some of our behaviors in our society and all those things, but to address it, it all comes down to governance transparency. People need to find that bridge that explains to them in a term that they understand that this resources is there because of me, and this is how these resources should benefit me. And the clearer those terms are, the more people will safeguard guide those resources. Now, if you go to Senegal, to close from here, and you are employed as a public official, you start stealing, you do not find that respect in your community, because xale bu ndaw mooy génn ne la mene yow gara baal ñu fii noo ko amee xam nañ ko yow sàcc nga. So people, yeah, exactly. Because I did a field study in there. And the public official, some of them, all of them are immune to that. But a lot of them are also conscious of their public perception. So in Gambia, we already have a weakness. Weakness be in the public official, Moine. He always wants to be looked in a good light. No one wants to be called a thief in Gambia. No one wants to be called a Tida Fasacha. So you already have a problem. You already have a situation, a problem. Now, if the Gambian is so conscious about their public image that they do not want to be associated with a thief and all those things, make sure the resources that you give them becomes transparent for the people that are within their community. And that alone would make them to start acting right. Because dinañ xam ne léegi ñëpp xam nañ ne jox neen ma nangami million. And nangami million bii nii, this is the reason why it is given to me. So if any money is diverted from there, everyone will look at me as a thief. So it only takes social studies to understand this. And unfortunately, we do not have
hopefully we'll do a couple of social studies to understand it more. Sirifo Sonko is saying even Osusus now are corrupt. Well, then that's a very bad news for us. But anyway, let me bring Savage here.
You see, these women, if you eat their money, they will take you to police.
I know. I know. Savage, are you with us? Savage. Savage, are you with us? All right. While Savage is tired or sleeping, and Hiri, are you with us? Hiri too, are you with us?
No,
Hiri
nothing.
too.
Yeah, Mustafa, I'm coming. Okay, bye-bye. Mustafa, thank you very much. Oz can go on and on and on, and that was an amazing. Oz, I think I need to host you
Yes,
on this
Oz
topic.
is a
And then
university professor. I
I
have
need
my head spinning.
on corruption. You know, I
Yes,
like his philosophical view. You know, I had my point to talk about, but when he
okay.
came up with the philosophical view, like how can we take our cultures, I like that thought. You know, sometimes it's interesting, Mustafa, like if we can look at the things that we do, and it's because most of the time, I imagine that for us to be developed, we need to get rid of certain cultural ways. You know, when I came to the United States, and then I sometimes work and I go to these very remote places, and then I work with people in those areas, and I talk to them. You know, and what I try to learn is to find out, did they just move to this state, or were they started from a linear approach of life where certain things were culturally normal, and they refined themselves, and they got rid of certain things, because most of the time we see them as, when we say, oh, this is wrong, corruption is wrong, we shouldn't bribe people, we shouldn't do this, and we often would say, oh, it's a Western ideology, oh, this is just so Western, all that. And sometimes, most of the time, I'm like, it's not, I don't want to split like we're living in different worlds, right? If a Western ideology has helped to advance a nation, wouldn't that ideology be good if we want to be developed? How would development be like for us? Do we have to hold on to our cultures and traditions and expect that, you know, our behaviors will change, or those cultures and traditions will lead to progress and will you know, will lead to the development and whatever we want? And this is a very interesting philosophical
So
thought.
you are sort of saying we can go around and learn from other cultures, drop the bad culture we have, and pick up other good cultures, if
I
there is
don't
any.
think I don't even call it culture,
Mm.
you know, because if me and you decide to, if we find ourselves in the Sahara Desert and we build a home there, right? And then you bring in a Mandinka, somebody from Gambia, somebody from US, and then somebody from maybe Namibia, and somebody from Asia. We decide on how we live there, how we survive there, and how we're going to treat each other there, and it becomes a culture. And then as we progress, our children will change certain ways of lives because times change. Like, let's say, for example, in the past, people didn't have to,
But
even
isn't that the reason why they say tribe is a social construction?
it is, but again, sometimes we get so stuck in our ways and times of change. Like my dad don't used to go and buy rice in the shop. You know, we grow everything that we eat. We have our goods, we have everything. Right now, everything is cash. You have to have money. If you don't have money, you don't eat. So I strongly think that we need to evolve as human beings. And there's nothing like I lost my culture or we are losing our ways. So if those ways are not helping us to develop, I don't think we should hold on to them. That's how I believe. And I don't think leaving those ways is like we're picking up somebody else. Look, I've thought of corruption as a human vice, you know, which can be a serious development challenge, right? To me, that's how I see it, because I don't think corruption is merely a political problem. I think it is a human vice that is rooted
It's a
in
social problem.
yeah, and it's rooted in fear and pride and desire for unchecked advantage. You know, at its core, I think corruption occurs when entrusted power. And again, we have to be very careful with the definition and how we're viewing it, because we're saying as a root cause of underdevelopment, corruption, understanding it as a root cause, especially in the Gambian context. It is more like a legal violation. If I go to a police officer, if I'm driving to Basse and I see a soldier struggling on the road, and I just feel like giving him something to kind of, because he's, hey, thank you for your service, right? Thank you for your service can comes with, hey, buy this for water because I clearly see that he might need it, or make a tire, right? Okay, even if you want to normalize that. But what about if a police officer stands there and tells me, "Bring your documents," and I bring my documents and says, "Oh, you don't have a fire extinguisher." Well, so I didn't know I have to have a fire extinguisher. Well, you are driving an American car, you don't have a fire extinguisher. Well, I'm not going to give you your give me your documents, and then he goes and sits in his office, and I'm sitting down there confused. I'm like, he's not giving me a ticket. He's not telling me do this, do that, and then suddenly a friend comes and says, "You know what? Give him something." That was the time I had this serious confrontation with the police on the highway. Not an aggressive confrontation. I had to tell them, look, do you want your kids to be police officers? It's like when people, it becomes bad when people put conditions on it. Trust me. Sometimes it's like no cruise on the cruise on for but no man cruise on the landita. More cruise on, but no man cruise on the so much so that now it becomes normal. Kuninda hani manjini ngamfoma cruise on mulanga like local. Wombo cruise on and marking. I'm not doing it because I want to do it. Right? You have made this so normal now. People are doing it randomly. It's not because they want to do it. Like my Sarahulas will tell me. They're like, oh, Gambia, don't worry about it. Just give them money. I'll tell you, Mustafa, I was working at one of the hospitals in the Gambia. One night, a lady came to me at night. They came on any suicidal note. She was having symptoms that most likely could be malaria. So I was on duty at night. And then I saw that she wasn't vomiting. She can tolerate oral intake. Fine. I was like, okay, here's chloroquine. You can have the tablets and stuff, and you're okay. And I have no doubt in my mind that the chloroquine tablets will work as much as the injections would do. Now, this woman has this belief that the injections are better. Well, I travel all the way from the village at night. The least you can do is to give me injections. So I was trying to explain to this lady that you don't need to have the injection. You can have the tablets. Secondly, you're going home. I'm not going to be there to be the one giving you these injections. I'm just like, I'm not going to be the one giving you. It's not even safe. This lady looked at me. She pulled out money, tried to give it to me. I was a young nurse. I looked at her. I said, no, don't give me what I don't know, Carlos. She looked at me. I'm going to tell her. You don't know me, oh, collect mada, collect Sara, or not be your come. I am telling you, this was in the middle of the night. It was me and God and this woman. Yeah. I told her this medicine and this hospital is your tax money, and you don't have to pay me. Then she was so emotional. I was just like, no, but the people here collect it. I'm like, well, I don't. So you know what, Mustafa?
So all should know that when he came with all the things as a professor, was bombarding us with too much, and Savage said he fell asleep.
Yeah. Savage was hypnotized. But
I didn't sleep, so I don't know, man. You are the only one who slept anyway, so you can't blame Professor Oz for this. Go ahead. Wrap it up, please, in 30 seconds.
Honestly, I end up giving this young lady, the vaccines because she convinced me that they have this public health officer, a community health nurse, that will be able to give them the injections. And I have several of those kind of stories. That's why I think the main, going back to the topic, in the Gambia, the roots of corruption are both structural, I think, and cultural. And one major cause is economic vulnerability, because there's low public sector salaries, high unemployment, and limited economic opportunities, which create conditions where individuals rationalize bribery and favoritism as survival strategies. When basic needs, Mustafa, are insecure, ethical standards can be weakened. Another root cause of corruption in Gambia is weak institutional enforcement. Although anti-corruption laws do exist, enforcement mechanisms are often under-resourced or influenced by political considerations. When accountability systems lack independence or consistency, impunity grows. And if wrongdoing is not punished transparently, it quietly becomes normalized. A further factor, I think that's a root cause of corruption in Gambia is patronage and kinship networks. Our society in the Gambia, like many West African nations, places strong value on family and community loyalty. While these bonds are socially beneficial, they can blur, the line between communal obligation and nepotism. Positions may be awarded based on relationships rather than merit, embedding favoritism into governance structures. We say tribalism and favoritism enhances corruption. And additionally, limited civic education is a serious problem where, transparency, limited civic education, which contribute to a serious problem. When citizens are not fully aware, Mustafa, of their rights, public budgets, or governance processes, it becomes harder to demand accountability. And corruption thrives in these environments where information is restricted and scrutiny is weak. Historically, prolonged centralized power structures also shape governance culture. So there are periods where authority operated with minimal oversight can leave institutional habits that are difficult to dismantle. Even during our democratic transitions, reforming political culture takes forever. And the consequences are significant. Funds intended for infrastructure, funds intended for healthcare and education, and youth employment are diverted, slowing national development, public trust declining, and young people begin to believe that success depends on connections rather than competence. This erodes both moral and meritocracy, and yet corruption in the Gambia is not inevitable. It is a human vice, and likely all vices, like every other vice, it can be restrained through deliberate effort, strengthening institutions, improving public sector wages, ensuring transparent procurement systems, protecting whistleblowers, and promoting civic education. Critical steps. Equally important, Mustafa, is the moral leadership. Your leadership who model integrity and citizens who refuse to normalize wrongdoing. And ultimately, development is not only an economic project, development is also a moral one. A nation advances when integrity becomes stronger than temptation. So, addressing corruption in the Gambia, therefore, Mustafa, requires both structural reform and character reform, a commitment to place the common good above personal. Thank you.
All right, Hiri, I think you should go into politics. You're a very good public speaker.
Thank you very much.
And Os, I think you should go to the university. You just made someone slip here because you bombarded him so many times. So Savage, you can now unmute yourself. Because I don't think if Iris makes you also to doze off, then probably you are tired.
I still have 1 more hour to go before I can break my fast. So I guess that's the reason.
I think that is the reason why you slept. You slept because you are hungry, but which is also okay.
Yeah. In regards to the topic, I'm not entirely with Oz. Yeah, I understand the academic aspect of it and cultural and all that stuff. Because I feel like in regards to Gambia, we are quick to find some sort of reasoning for our actions, even if it's bad behavior. This is Gambia. I'm not talking about the academic aspect of what Oz was talking about. But in regards to corruption, people use, let's say, poverty to justify bad behavior. There's so many people that are poor in Gambia, but they're content. Not necessarily they want to be poor and they're content being poor, but they're content with the little that they have and they're working towards having more with self-preserved dignity. However, there are other people with bad behavior that just want to have things as fast as possible and then use poverty as an excuse for it, as a justification for those bad behaviors. Now, And then the other thing is people, they talk about government as an entity, like the people in government are like aliens. Again, I use this word all the time. They're not aliens. They are our parents. They are our moms. They are, they are sisters. They are brothers. They are uncles.
Yeah.
They come from us. So, and then we justify, we need to have some institutional reform and someone to police this behavior. No, this behavior cannot be policed unless and until it's modified in our homes. Corruption starts in our homes. This bad behavior starts in our homes. We normalize bribing and taking cuts here and there. I don't think that's a good culture. If that is a culture and it's a norm, I don't think it's a good one. And it's high time we move away from that.
Well,
Let's say
we
if
are
I
still
give you a
fighting.
tire,
We are still talking about FGM, female genital. Well, some said cutting, some said mutilation. They couldn't even agree on the definition of it.
thank you. But the point of contention should be the effect, not necessarily the name or the content or what I took or whatever. It is the effect. Now, if attire or giving attire or just normalizing, what we call gift giving is harmful and detrimental to our progress, then that is not a good culture or a norm. So we have to find a way to get away from that or replace it with something else. So I don't entirely agree on the fact that some of the things are like norms or values or cultural or whatever. I feel like sometimes corruption also, or like this bad behavior, is due to self-imposed responsibility. I was talking to a friend and he said, "Oh, in Gambia, people get like $5,000. That's nothing." I said, if I was in Gambia and I was getting $5,000 for on a monthly basis, I said I can live off that. They're like, "Oh, that's not possible. How can you live off $5,000 and you need to have a wife, you need to have your mom and dad?" No. They are not my responsibility because they cannot fit in the budget of 5,000. So it means I'm not going to marry. Like I'm not going to have a wife at that point if I'm getting $5,000 and knowing that the only way I can get extra to support that wife is if I do something dubious.
Are you sure you'll be able to do that? There are a lot of
Well, I may have a girlfriend, but I'm not going to marry because marrying, because being married is
you
not
can
going to be.
continue to have a girlfriend. I mean, some people wouldn't also be able to do that because of religious reasons.
Well, then you need to fast, just like it's advised in the Muslim.
We should call the police on you. Yes, you are right. You can fast. That's also
you can fast. And now,
how long can you fast?
Well, pray a lot. Pray. The more you pray, you'll be distracted. And the other thing is the biggest thing that I see that is majorly corruption among us, the Muslims, and we are silent about it. And it's a behavior, and if it continues, it's going to be catastrophic. Is this government officials building masjids, and the government integrating masjids in a secular state like the Gambia. It's not an Islamic state. I'm a Muslim. I'm not against religion. But why do we have government officials building masjids left, right, and center? And we're all silent because we are Muslims. Oh, it's a good initiative.
Not just that. Also that there is a practice in the Gambia where they build a masjid within office spaces, and the masjid is even in a much better condition than the office.
Thank you.
You go to a police station, you see a masjid. The masjid is much more beautiful, better built than the police station.
Thank you, my point.
Yeah.
Right. So like now we're building masjids. I was saddened when I saw the president out inaugurating a masjid, and there was a drone footage of that, and you see the masjid was beautiful, but all the homes within those areas and all the shops, they literally like, I don't know, like a nuclear bomb was dropped there. Everything looked like, I'm like, what is the essence of this? And everyone in that masjid, after that prayer, let's say something happened to them, they will have to go to a hospital that they claim, or people claim, that doesn't have enough medication, or it doesn't have, they're not like stuck in a point that can render basic health needs. But we're okay to spend that much money to build that masjid. And we call ourselves Muslims. So you see, those behaviors that we are accepting, this is how they're able to funnel public funds into our religious belief, our behaviors, and then we said it's okay, we normalize it, and then in our manubitos and in our extra naming ceremonies, this is it. We accept it. And Tobaski and the Ajimaka, we accept it. So
you know what, you have a lot of list there, and you seem to know a lot about all of these things.
Because I see it.
Okay, but you wrap up in 30 seconds, you too, so
Sure.
that we can drive impact.
Sure. Someone mentioned here the vehicles that were given to the parliamentarians in 2016, 2017. But the bigger question for me is when they went to Mecca, the whole caravan went to Mecca, and they said someone sponsored that trip. No one questioned that. I didn't see people questioning that. Is that because they went to Mecca? So it is okay for me to steal money and go to Mecca. But then it's not okay for me to steal money and buy a car. I don't know. You know, I think we need to change our attitude. And then we understand that some of the things that we claim, you know, is our responsibility that is forcing us to corruption, is self-imposed responsibilities, and lack of contentment is the reason why we're corrupt.
All right, so let me bring in drive impact. Savage, that's so good. I'm glad you recovered from the doors of drive impact. Yeah, have you been following?
Yes, I've been following for a while now.
Okay, great. Then you have an idea what we're talking about.
Exactly. Thank you. And sorry, Savage, for getting knocked off by our emeritus Professor Bob.
Yes.
I think
Oz comes with a lot of information. I mean,
exactly. If he had listened to him, I believe Savage would have also a lot of good point from what Oz was speaking about. But before I just move on to corruption, just to little bit differentiate between corruption and misplaced priority, because I just heard Savage saying building of masjids. I wouldn't equate that to corruption. I would probably equate that to a misplaced priority, right? Because if a masjid is built, Muslims would benefit from it. So therefore, the general public is benefiting from it, and it's not necessarily a division of funds to one's pocket, but rather for public good. So instead of them building,
I think he's pointing to it because of the potential implications that could also come out of it. Because just as Nyanjai at the beginning was talking about, corruption comes in different forms. So, for example, the president, for example, needs to build mosques and inaugurate mosques so that he gets more political capital. And anybody could just come and fund that for the president. In that case, it would be corruption.
Okay? Yes, in that, if you consider it in that direction.
So it depends on the context. I guess that's what the Savage was also talking about.
Yeah. If you consider it in that direction, it would definitely have some level of relationship with corruption. However, just to move on to the points of the insightful points of our Professor Usman Bob, especially with his direction on the norms of reciprocity. In layman terms, just to deviate a little bit from academia, in our Maniga terms, that would essentially equate to Ninya Saramu. Kurusong. But this is not true in terms of corruption because the base of it or the starting point of it itself is wrong. For example, if I want to win a procurement contract in a particular institution and somebody helped me to gain that procurement contract, I assume that we're Nia. And if I give him Kurusongo, that means Bajo Kanyinyal. But that in itself is wrong. The base of it is wrong. So reciprocity doesn't work there. And also if you want to consider reciprocity in academic terms, reciprocity is more rewarding in a repeated dealings. So you reciprocate if you believe that tomorrow I will see you again, so that you can do me the same favor tomorrow again. So I'll give you something. How about if you consider it in a case of one-time dealings? In those cases, I would basically take your Nina and then go away because I will not see you again. It's you can consider it in the terms of the police and the driver. It's not likely that I'm going to meet the same police all the time. So if the police catch me in the traffic, he would definitely want to get something out of me because he knows that tomorrow he might not see me. So in those cases, reciprocity would not matter. However, I do agree with you in terms of your view on public resource, that in the sense that when something is a public resource, people really don't give it more attention or they do not care for it more. In economic terms, there is a term for this. It's called the tragedy of commons, which means what everybody owns, no one stands to care. So the Gambian money, most people who are corrupt think it's the public coffers, so they can steal as much as they want because everybody owns it, so nobody tends to care. But that should change. We should put more accountability systems in place, and what Mustafa is doing is a tremendous job, bringing it to the light so that the public can be able to understand that. The second point I want to a little bit highlight is the relationship between corruption and culture. I think this has been talked about very much here. I believe the relationship, if there exists a relationship between corruption and culture, it's very minimal. And this I would take example of the Gambia as a case. Now, if you look at Transparency International, which basically does rank countries in terms of corruption, all the countries in the world, they rank them in terms of corruption, and this is actually done every year. If you look at the statistics from Transparency International, for the case of the Gambia, from 2019, so I just took a 5 years gap, from 2019 to 2023, you would find out that corruption has been changing in Gambia. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it comes down. So that means there is a change in corruption. Sometimes there is a decrease, sometimes there is an increase. But how about culture now? Now, you know that corruption is changing, but is the culture of the Gambia changing? Because it takes a long time for a culture to change. Now, if culture is staying constant and it's not changing, but corruption is changing, how can you explain the change in corruption? Would you say it's caused by the culture? I highly doubt it. Yeah. So I think, and mostly in Gambia, our culture is basically mostly embedded in religion, in Islam or in Christianity. And if you follow the teachings of Islam and you follow the teachings of Christianity, they both say that corruption is not good, right? And then if you see that our culture is embedded with these religions and now corruption is occurring, what is then happening in our society? Does it mean we are a wolf in sheep clothing? We say we are Muslims, but we are really not. We say we are Christians, but we are really not. I think corruption boils.
You don't think religion is mostly a cover for the Gambians?
Exactly, and this is why I said maybe we are wolves in a sheep clothing. We put our haftans and go to the mosques, and when I meet you, I say, Mustafa, assalamu alaikum, peace be on you. And then at the back doors, I'm doing something that's not in line with religion.
Yeah.
Basically, a characteristics of a munafiqun. Right. Yeah. So basically, you know, we are religious people, and our culture is embedded in religion, but we don't basically practice what the religion teaches us. So therefore, one might be able to conclude that corruption is a personal thing. You are either a good person or a bad person. And if you are corrupt, you are a bad person. Right? And then I want to dwell into another one that was also discussed here, which was poverty as a cause of corruption. Right? This one too, I seem to have a different view in it, because as our senior man Nyanjai here also said, because I am an economics by training myself also, that's why I call Nyang a senior man, because I respect his economic thinkings as well. Poverty as a cause of corruption. What's our view on that, right? We need to consider poverty versus richness. So corruption, as Nyam mentioned, is in different levels. And today our talk mostly is based on insignificant levels of corruption, right? We are talking about corruption at a very, very minute level, because the examples we are given here are mostly the policemen, the alcalos. Let's talk about grand corruption. Let's talk about rent-seeking behaviors in our country as well, right? And this does not involve the lower echelon of the income group. And by that I mean the poor people. Grand corruption is mostly done by the capitalists, the people who command most of our resources in our country, right? Okay, so and that is the bigger part of corruption that is actually happening in Gambia. And if you are able to control that, then you are able to have more success in combating corruption in the country. Because if you would compare the amount of resources that have been misappropriated at the lower level of corruption by poor people, and the amount of resources that have been misappropriated at the higher echelon, you would find out that you would have a greater number in the latter. Right? So I think we should also really focus more on the grand corruptions that are happening in the Gambia and how best we can be able to combat that. It also begs the perspective to go into the situation of necessity versus opportunity. Am I corrupt because I have to be corrupt, or am I corrupt because an opportunity presents itself? Right? For the case of the poor, it probably might be necessity. I am corrupt because I can't pay my rent. I am corrupt because I can't help my grandmother. So therefore, I will be corrupt to be able to help those people. Basically, it's a necessity for me. For the rich people, I am corrupt because I want to accumulate more wealth. I have more wealth, but it's not enough. So it's opportunity versus necessity. In either case, corruption cannot be justified because it's a bad behavior. Another person also mentioned that how about if we create a society in which the rich is equal to the poor? That's essentially a level of creating a universal basic income. The people who said that they are corrupt because they cannot meet their basic necessities, let's provide a particular income that can be able to help you pay your house, have food for the day, and be able to take care of your health. Would that really change anything? No, it would not. Because corruption is an innate action. It's a behavior of someone. If you are not a truthful person, you are not an honest person, it doesn't matter how much money I give you, you would still be bound to be corrupt. So the universal basic income wouldn't help. And also it would maybe dwell into people's, cognitive thinkings and people's level of management of resources. If somebody is poor, but then he does not have a high level of competence in his thinking, even if you give him $1 million, when you visit him 2 years later, he would have $0.
One night, like those guys who won lotteries.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
So
because
yeah, it's a bit complex, and I mean, if you follow it in deeper grounds, the best way to be able to combat corruption, because even the developed world that most people are referencing, Germany, for example, where I lived for a very long time, it's also ranked 10 in terms of corruption, in terms of Transparency International. I mean, who would have expected that? So there is corruption existing even in the developed world. So if we mirror ourselves to those people as well, corruption is existing there. It's just maybe at a reduced state. And the reason why they have it at a minimal level is because they have proper monitoring systems in place, rigorous ones. And this is what we are lacking as a country. If you don't have proper monitoring systems in place, you essentially cannot know what is going on. If you wouldn't have gone out of your way to go and interview certain people and follow up and spend sleepless nights trying to put different data points together, it will be very difficult for you to be able to conclude and say that this resource has been misappropriated and I need to bring it to the public. Why don't we have systems in place in which they can be able to inform us as the public what project is going on, what amount of money, what is the value of this project, what is the state of this project, and the normal citizen or the average citizen can be able to access this kind of data and be able to interpret it. One might also say a lot of Gambians are not literate, but then you provide platforms in which you can be able to, inform them about the progress of those. And I want to advocate for TikTok car. If they legalize TikTok car, most people wouldn't be corrupt. Because somebody actually mentioned here the Osusu, right? Somebody mentioned here the Osusu, and another person says even Osusus are being corrupt now. But if you follow, there is this lady on TikTok called Fanta. She follows up on these corruption issues. And the moment they start bringing people out who do corrupt actions and they start doing cash on them, next minute you hear they have paid the money. So maybe we should advocate. I mean, it's a narrow perspective. Maybe we should advocate.
I agree with you. Transparency on this subject. More love talk, I agree with you. So I think Drive Your Party, we'll leave it at that because it's getting late. Let's give 5 minutes to Great Thinker also.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
5 minutes, and then we can wrap it up. Tomorrow we can talk about the state of corruption in the Gambia and what can be done about it. I think that's the state of corruption. We can drive it more specific.
Are you sure you want to give it to Great Thinker? We'll be here till tomorrow morning, It's my brother.
No, but he has 5 minutes. Great Thinker is...
I'm just messing with him.
Great Thinker is a PDYS guy, just like Mboj. Mboj who left also. Mboj is PDYS.
Yeah, they're all the people. I told them they don't have a flag bearer. I told them to kind of, maybe adopt Isafala as their flag bearer, so maybe they don't have to worry about it.
There has been Doi before Isafal.
Well, but Doi doesn't have a flag bearer, so how about
I thought they have you.
You
see? They have Swahib, like the new person.
Well, yeah, Swahib is waiting to endorse somebody.
When Os was talking, I fell asleep, but now I'll be awake when.
Man, you always fall asleep when Os is talking, man. So disrespectful, bro.
When the Great Thinker starts, I'll be awake.
Okay, Great Thinker, wake him up.
Anyway, greetings to all of you.
Greetings, bro.
Okay. Mustafa, thank you for giving me 5 minutes, but that's very unfair. But anyway, I'm a straight shooter.
Tomorrow I'll give you much more time. Tomorrow, trust me.
You will never give me that time. You know that.
No, lie, I'll give you more time.
But anyway, what I'm saying is I heard you guys elaborated on corruption and made great points. Unfortunately, I wasn't here when Osbob was talking, and I think I got a little bit of Hiri, if I may remember, but Savage, the Mr. Controversial man, is here. I had him, talking anyway, and this guy Driville, is it Driville? Yeah. Anyway, that's the problem we have in the country, and we are faced with corruption. That's what we talk about all day, in and out. I think Hiri was talking about culture. He even reiterated and mentioned, give a scenario example of like people from different countries happen to create a new settlement in a desert area or whatsoever. That kind of analogy he was giving. What would they bring there? Will they build a new culture which would, differ from the one that of their origin? That is true. But the problem is, I think Dreville was talking about a system that he also said that system will not work by giving everyone, the government subsidizing people to have a sustained lifestyle. But I think if the government wants to eliminate corruption, they need to change their policies and programs and work on that. Try to transform the country into a functional economy that the country would start to produce and export. Because the moment the country starts to industrialize, I think income would, evolve from the state that it is, and people will start to earn enough. And once that starts to happen, I think people will not be fine wanting too much, to doing things that are not very honorable, but weird, behavior or actions. That is corrupt acts. So I would suggest a country like Gambia. It requires multifaceted approach that combines strong legal frameworks, like I say, institutional independence, active citizen participation. And while the country has made strides, maybe like such as passage of anti-corruption acts, the one they had, I think there was one enacted. Was it, you are a journalist, you could help me with the day. Was it 2022 or 23?
We have an act. There was one on the
around 22, 23, yeah, and not the recent one during Barrow's time.
Yeah, that's the one that is currently passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think the challenge was I think from moving from legislation to effective enforcement. I think that was where this. Well, anyway, if they strengthen the institutional independence, for that anti-corruption body to work, I think it will make a great impact. And also they should empower the National Audit Office, the NAO, and operationalize the Anti-Corruption Commission to make it effective. All these things, and if they are carried out and put in place, I think it will help reduce the problem. And once the country is transformed to an industrialized nation, people wouldn't be struggling to survive, because I heard Savage was saying with $5,000 he can still manage himself. But I guess he was just joking. He doesn't know the value of 5,000 as of now.
In the Gambia right now. Savage
yes,
is
exactly.
Savage is out of the country.
He's totally disconnected, I believe.
He's not based in this country.
Yeah,
he doesn't even know about
exactly. And I had you, Mustafa, mentioning like digitalization and transparency, something like that you did.
Yeah.
I think I had you, to improve technology, so that the middleman wouldn't be exposed to bribery, where it usually occurs. I understand you. I heard you saying that. That's also another one of the facets. That's also another, measures that can help alleviate the situation. But this is a very delicate situation that the country is. We're finding civil servants, public servants, people who used to advocate, criticize government of corruption are the ones now being found to be corrupt. And they are the very ones who were out there criticizing. So I just hope ourselves here, some of us will not tomorrow be there and play the same role.
Run away
because this is something that it always baffles me. I don't understand it because people will be outside advocating for this XYZ, but when it comes to when they are there, for them to practicalize things, that's the time they will not be able to perform.
I guess
and that is the time that they will come.
That is what Boji was talking about. That
and that is the time, they exactly, and that is the time, you will find them being corrupt to the core. And they compromise their integrity because, something is very important. A human being, you need to safeguard your integrity. And then just wanting to be rich overnight, that mindset should be, totally removed from one's, sense of thinking and direction. Because you have to work for it. No matter how many years you spend out there studying, it doesn't matter. You have to come and climb the ladder and see what will happen. If you make a difference, riches and wealth will come your way. It doesn't matter because opportunities will come your way. People will trust you, and then that's how you elevate to another level. But people fail to put these things into account. People talk about religion, God. I heard you guys mention that. But when it comes to reality, I used to always say, being sarcastic, saying that Gambia, we only have people that perform salat, but we don't have true Muslims, or it's very minimal. Sorry to say, but this is how I perceive the country, and I've been saying this for years, not even now. Talking about building mosques, and somebody did mention that, and I wrote something. Someone was engaging me in the comment section, but maybe he didn't understand what I was just buttressing on Savage statement. Those mosques that they were building everywhere, you have a little corner where people gather to pray. Even some of those corners, people don't even fill it up. And in Islam, we know why mosques are advised to be built, but that doesn't mean that people doing it in a way that it is not in line with even the Islamic teachings and ethics. Because most of those mosques, they don't even have crowd. Sometimes I saw a video 2 days ago. A guy was in the mosque making a video and saying that this mosque, look at it, guys. I am the only one here praying. I saw the video. I think I posted the video. And that is sad. What about people who Allah bless with certain level, with the wealth, before them going to build those mosques? Why can't they build clinics or even health centers and equip it? Put some medical personnel there, give them job, and then at least give them work and then let them see patients to reduce the overcrowdedness in our main hospitals. They could do that, and that is the same level of rewards you will get from the Almighty. But that's why I said I think the lack of understanding of our religion plays a big part. That is where fanatical mentality comes to play. So anyway, your 5 minutes. Let me stop here because what I have to say is a lot. Let me just